Hello everyone and welcome back to the channel. Today we'll be discussing my wife's 2011 Infiniti G37 all-wheel drive Sport. So my wife has owned this car since September of 2011. In total, she's put on over 111,000 miles. And as mentioned in a prior video, I use an app called My Cars. So on that app, I've been tracking it since about 60,000 miles with a total miles tracked of 51,000 and a little bit more. And so over the miles tracked, we've done about 11,000 miles a year. So just some quick stats to get started. We have an average of 21 miles per gallon, a best of 26, and a low of 17. And I believe the highway mileage EPA rated when new was about 27 on the highway, so we're getting right around what was claimed. Overall, over 51,000 miles, we have a total running cost of about $20,000. That comes out to about $7,500 in gas, $7,400 in service and repairs, and $5,200 in insurance costs. So when you break it down by month, this car costs us about $293, including gas, repair and service, and insurance. It does not include the cost of purchase of the vehicle. As if you've had the car paid off, this is what it costs you roughly per month. So now what kind of services were needed over the last 111,000 miles? Not a whole lot. Before 60,000 miles when we started tracking, there was a rear wheel bearing on the passenger side replaced under factory warranty. Ever since, we have not had any other one needed to be replaced. Other than that, this car does go through tires and brakes somewhat regularly. We just installed the 4th set of tires, including the factory set, at 110,000 miles. Front brakes we've been doing about every 40,000 miles, and the rear brakes are done pretty much right at every 30,000 miles. The rear brakes in this car are actually kind of small, and they do wear out somewhat quickly for being on the rear. They just pretty much like clockwork every 30,000 miles. As far as regular maintenance, pretty much we've done an oil change every 7,500 miles. I've replaced the pollen filter for the first time at 90,000 miles, and it actually looked better than some of the filters I got out of my prior cars at 20,000 miles. Part of this is due because it's parked inside. Part of it's just, I don't know, maybe the location of the filter inside the car. But that being said, the major maintenance, say the 90,000 mile service, was actually done at 105,000 miles, and that was a pretty major service. That was spark plugs, pollen filter, front and rear differential fluids got replaced, the coolant got replaced, as well as fixing a leak I'll talk about later, and the transfer case fluid got replaced. Other than that, we didn't really need to do any maintenance to this car in general. It's been pretty easy. Like I said, oil changes every 7,500 miles, and that's about it. As far as unusual repairs, like I said, we've done 4 tires about every 40,000 miles. We actually replaced the wheels at 99,000 miles because all 4 of them were bent. I just didn't want to straighten them. I tried straightening one and it cracked because they are lightweight Enki wheels, so we just replaced all 4 of them. At that same time, we also replaced a tire pressure monitoring system sensor, or TPMS sensor, that was mounted on one of the wheels. That one had failed. We were getting a flashing TPMS light. The other 3 have not failed yet, so they are still going strong at 11 years old. We did replace the factory battery at 8 years and 98,000 miles. We replaced 4 struts at 76,000 miles, and then we found a coolant leak at 106,000 miles. So we did that with the major service. That was actually leaking from the inlet at the top of the radiator. There's some great features and positives of the vehicle, and there are some not so great things about the vehicle, as is any vehicle, so we can talk about those now. One of the best things, I think, is the gauge pod moves with the steering wheel. Another thing I like about this car is it is a rear-wheel drive biased all-wheel drive system. Pretty much rear-wheel drive all the time until there's some slippage detected. There is a slight delay when it detects the slippage to when front wheels get engaged, and so you just have to keep that in mind on slick conditions, that you have to drive it like a rear-wheel drive car, and then the front-wheel drive will engage and help you to steady the car. I've always thought the VQ engine that is in this car has a great exhaust note. It's one of my favorites. Even stock, it sounds good, and most aftermarket exhausts will make it sound even better. It's got a nice burble to it. the S model, you get some things like upgraded seats. The seats I love in these cars because they have the inflatable side bolsters, which I've mentioned previously is really helpful for me and my wife. You can really tailor the fit of the seats to you and to help you hold you in place better. The trunk space is pretty good, I think. Versatile. We've put 2 large suitcases in the trunk as well as a few carry-ons, and there's still a little bit of room to spare. So it is definitely easy to travel with this car for a road trip or going to the airport and things like that. Again, based on the size of the vehicle, it does have average rear seat room. For the most part, it's pretty comfortable, and you'll find that some German cars have smaller rear seat space than this, and so it's, you know, for the class, it's accommodating in the rear seat. Also, it does have average fuel economy. Like I said, we average 19 to 20 miles a gallon, 21 miles a gallon. It can get upper 20s on a highway run, but it is average for the vehicle. It's not the lightest car in the world, and it is an all-wheel drive vehicle, so there's that weight to carry around. Some of the negatives that I've experienced with this car is that the all-wheel drive model, in comparison to the rear-wheel drive only model, really does lose some steering feel and information compared to the rear-wheel drive. You just lose that detail there. But for most drivers, it's not going to be a big deal, and it is still one of the best steering racks that you can find, especially up for the time. The downside of the all-wheel drive system is that with the S model, on the rear-wheel drive, you get upgraded Brembo brakes. Those are not included with the all-wheel drive model, so they just have the standard brakes. So with the S model, the sport package, I should say, on the all-wheel drive model, you mostly get the seats, you get larger wheels, and some different fascias around the car. So it's mostly an appearance package with the upgraded seats. One thing that is a little small in this car is the cup holders. The ones in the door pockets aren't very usable for most models, and the ones in the center console are okay, but they do work better than the ones in a lot of German cars though. And the one downside about the rear seat is the foot rooms. While the seating position is relatively comfortable, you don't have a lot of room for your feet behind the seats. The seats are low to the floor. There's a small foot room there, so you don't really have a lot of room to move your feet around. Everything else of you will be comfortable though. And then one of the less engaging parts of this car is the automatic transmission is slow to respond to inputs from the paddles. It does have paddle shifters and they feel great. They're nice heavy aluminum. The transmission programming it's definitely not a dual clutch. It's not the current ZF 8-speed that's in a lot of other cars. It is a full traditional 7-speed automatic. It does respond slowly to inputs from the shift paddles. Finally, the last thing I want to mention here is the central screen here with the navigation, as well as your radio and fuel economy settings and other various features like that. It's pretty well laid out, easy to find what you're looking for. You can use either of these buttons here in the center of this round portion, the up and down, left and right, and the diagonal. There's also that silver ring around it that you can scroll through the options similar to an Audi MMI or BMW iDrive, but you can find all of the things you would like to find easily with simple navigation, and it gets easier the more you use it. All of the main things like zooming in and out of a map are on the left side of the panel there, and then brightening and darkening the screen is on the right side, as well as some quick access buttons like the map or phone and things like that. This is a slightly older system that came out a few years before this car was built. It does look dated by today's standards, but it still functions well. It's still easy to use, so it's not an old system that is hard to use as well. So what are your thoughts? Have you had a car like this? What are your experiences with your car? Do you have any questions? Are you considering purchasing one? Let me know in the comments down below. If you'd like to see more information about this car specifically, leave a comment about that as well, and maybe I'll feature this car in another video coming up.